This tree right here, right? Beautiful, big, um, what's this? Maple tree. Beautiful, big maple tree. Sugar maple tree, actually. You know, the sugar maple tree produces the good syrup, that we all know and love. Before you get to the maple syrup, you have to tap in, you get the water out of it. My ancestors didn't just say, we can probably drink what may be inside of this. It's the biggest woodpecker in the Northeast here. Uh, time it was a dry season and the water was beginning to dry up. So Mimakok was so thirsty and had no water. And Maple Sapling saw this and said, my old friend, you can come and drink from deep within me. Drink the sweet water that's inside of me. And begin to drill inside of Sugar Maple again. And when he stuck his tongue deep inside, he began to drink. And when he was done, the water continued to come out of the tree. So my ancestors saw this. It's a nice story, but it's more than just a story. When these stories and things die, the spirit of my ancestors, the spirit of the trees, of the animals dies along with it, you know? So we use this land to teach these different stories, to keep all of these different things alive. So what's happening today is just a continuance of that. And we're starting now.
Anishik.
Yo.
Okay, peace, everybody. My apologies for the sound on that video. I'm not sure why that happened, but we'll revisit that video again with a better sound system. You can go watch that video on YouTube. It's going to sound much better. Not sure what that was about, but thank you, everybody, for joining us. And today we have a very special guest. I'm sure y'all tuned in earlier, so I'm not even going to go through it. Just going to bring the sister up. We're going to turn the floor over to her, and we're going to listen to her story. We're going to learn about her. We're going to learn about her son, more about her son, and we're going to do what we can to get this information beyond just the circles that we walk in, so we can, this legacy needs to live on. This man's story needs to be known. His family story needs to be known. You know what I mean? And it's very important. This is a step we're taking towards that direction. So no further ado. How you doing, sister?
I'm good.
Okay, good to have you back. Thank you. And
Thank
so just
you.
a real, recap again. Just introduce yourself again, and then we'll get started. And I definitely got some questions for you. Some things I want to ask for myself. Okay.
Okay. So my name is Ansari. I am the mother, first, last, forever comrade of Muriyd 2 Clouds Williams.
Okay, so 2 Clouds is very special, brother. Very special person. I can't, like, anytime I think of saying anything about him, I know that there's so many people that can say so much more about him. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to even put myself in a category like I even knew him. Like, you know what I mean? He's somebody I got to spend some time with, and I was, honored to be able to spend the time I did get with him. So obviously no one knows him better than you. And in order to get to know him, we got to know you. So we got to know where your story started. So please introduce us to you, and let's learn about you so we can understand who 2 Clouds is.
Well, let's see. I guess I'll go back to my origin, reiterating a little bit of what I said earlier. My mother was mixed race, Afro Native. Her dad was Mohawk and Black American, Gullah Geechee, from what I understand. I don't know a whole lot about his dad because he passed away when my mother was just a baby. Her mother was German and Irish, my grandmother, Miriam Evans. My father, my dad was Malinke through his mom was his mother was first generation born here in the States, but they're from the Bahamas, so I'm West Indian. And his father's people also Gullah Geechee. I was born into the Nation of Islam. I'm trying to figure out about who am I. I was born into the Nation of Islam. I Simple 25 in Newark, New Jersey, born and raised, 5th generation. My dad was lieutenant of the FOI. My mom was an MGT.
So I want to be able to go through steps with you. Looks like maybe our reception might have went a little bit, so that's cool. Yeah. Could you just elaborate?
How to get in a better area?
No, you good. I think that was a good time to, because I wanted to ask a question then. So, so you're raised FOI. Can you just give the people a little bit of a background on because I want people to understand exactly who your family is. Let's talk about the times. You don't got to date yourself, but let's talk about the era in which your family, in Newark and what was going on in Newark in those times. You know what I mean? So they have a real understanding of where you're coming from. I think that's important.
Okay. So I was born in 72. So I'm good with the age thing. Okay. I was born in 72. Again, I'm from Newark, New Jersey, 5th generation. But from my German ancestors came over to Jersey. And if you know anything about German history in Newark specifically, they were very rebel rousers, as well as the Irish. Newark itself is very much a protest town, full of revolutionaries. If you talk about Noble Drew Ali, of course, the Panthers, Father Divine, all these guys, they were very much race people, as they say. And, I just came up with that sort of thinking. And I wasn't actually raised in the Nation of Islam because, Elijah passed away in 75. And my mother, with that whole split, my mother didn't really go one way or the other. She sort of followed Farrakhan, but there was so much, fitness, so much drama going on. She just kind of pulled back and started studying the deen on her own. So I kind of came up with that understanding. My father, let's see. My father, he was 2nd degree black belt. He taught Kung Fu. He was a sensei. My mother also owns a black belt in Kung Fu. So that also kind of molded me in some ways. My mother passed away when I was 14, so there was some struggle there. Of course, we all got split up and things of that nature. And by 16, I always had that Black consciousness, of course, because in my mother's house, oddly enough, in my mother's house, we never really talked about race or anything like that. I just remember her telling me when I was probably about 5 years old or so, she told me we're the original people.
Indeed. So we're going to be patient and wait for this to open back up. Okay.
So
you're back. Okay.
So I just really had her example to grow up on. And then on the outside, you had I don't know, I was around, I don't know how I really got so conscious, as we used to say back in the 90s. But I mean, I went through the 5% Nation. I was Queen Be Wise. And then, but you know, I was Muslim. I was just always Muslim in self. So I don't know. Am I answering anything?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, and well, I want to speak to like, it was kind of like, I talk about that a lot. I tell people how I speak for my community, but it wasn't just my community. It was a lot of these communities in Jersey that had a cultural aesthetic attached to even the streets. You know what I mean? So you could go to Newark and you would see the Muslim brothers all over. You'd see the t-shirts hanging down to the knees and all that. You knew where you were. You know what I mean? Even like Philly had that, a lot of very Islamic overprint over it. You know what I mean? My community, we was 5%. Wasn't so much Muslims, but we was all 5%. You know what I'm saying? Which comes out of the nation. You know what I mean? So so to talk about how was the consciousness like, and on top of that, you know, you're born from the people who were there for the riots.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? So that's your parents and them. So it was just, it's in the air for us, as you know. So I think that's important.
That's why it's hard for me to pinpoint like how it, because it's, as you said, it's just part of the culture. Even I have a lot of friends who are not Muslim, but it's just part of the culture. The way they speak, the way they dress, like they ain't eating no swine, you know, that kind of thing. They're not Muslim, but it's just who we are. So even if you see cats like, you know, dealing on the block or something, they still have a certain consciousness. So it's just part and parcel of where we come from.
That's what I be trying to share with people. So a lot of times when like they don't understand how I communicate with them or where my mind is coming from, I'm like, this is how we all are out here. Like we not into none of that like little extra weirdo stuff. Like we not gullible people. We not that, because it was never the culture. You know what I'm saying? And then you mix that with the street stuff. So it's really, this is why they probably took Two Clouds like he was some type of street edgy dude, but it's really, this is the culture we come from. And it might appear like it's, but that's not even the gangster stuff. You know what I mean? That's just the everyday regular people. You know what I mean? We don't, you know, it's just a part of the culture out here, but looks like we might have lost the sister again. So
okay, I got you back.
Okay, we're back now. So yeah, I was just trying to show like, and I'm glad you said some of those things, because even the drug dealers, even they had kind of a code to them. You know what I mean? It was a different type of environments we came from. Okay, so I thought that was important that people get to understand who you are and things of that nature. So
and may I say, before you cut out, you said maybe that's like what some of them see in him, that balance. It's oddly enough, in my opinion, is exactly what they needed up there. Because in saying that, as you said, we're not gullible and stuff like that. We're also not going to just sit back and let you like step on our necks. So it's like, oh, we got to fight. Okay, we can do this. You know what I mean? However you want to do it. You want to do it in the courts? You can want to. It's all good.
However you want it.
It's exactly what he needed. What they needed.
And that's going to speak to something as we move through this conversation, that people are going to see where that strength and the unity really come from. Like we're so intertwined, and our experiences at ground zero have made us such a strong people. You know what I mean? That we have so much to offer to the world. You know what I'm saying? So, please continue. Like, you know, we loving the story so far. Please continue. I don't want to tell you how to go, but like, you know, we
definitely got me. I was thinking earlier, I wanted to make sure I made mention. I've said before that we molded into the person that he became. And the I want to make mention, Two had a whole village. I'm his mama. I was the one who had the last word or whatever, or even pushed him in certain directions and, made certain opportunities for him. But there was an entire village from when he was born, but definitely from 1 and up. So, and not everybody was Muslim by any means. I have a nice close knit group of people, and we're diverse in our spirituality and such. And it also intertwines. But so I'm gonna mention Tree, one of my best friends, Tree. I'm a poet. I used to perform a lot, so Two was also in that whole that sphere. My girl Kilolo Kumanika, my surrogate mother Zainab Abdul Zahir.
I hope everyone really is taking in. Okay, cool. You back?
Okay.
Okay.
So my surrogate mom, who he called grandma, Zainab Abdul Zahir, her mother and the other women of that time, when Malcolm was murdered, they are the ones who got together and gave Sister Betty a baby shower for the twins that she was pregnant with. The masjid that we are members of in Elizabeth, New Jersey, the Jabbers, Sheikh Hisham Jabber is the brother who actually gave the janazah, the funeral rites for Malcolm. So you see him all the time in the old footage of the funeral. The black brother with the Arab garb, that was Hisham Jabber, and his family. They literally help raise Two. He used to stay there at the masjid when he wanted to be young and acting crazy and call the imam. He like, I got him. So these are the people that he grew up with and who molded him. You know what I mean? And that's just a handful of the people. So I did not do it on my own. But again, we all had a certain consciousness, and everybody was like, if I'm losing the grip, because he's a young man and he needs stuff out there in the world. If I lose the grip, up, I got him. The next one got him, Come on over here, Muriyd. Let's go do this. Let's go do that. So everybody kept him in check and fed him, fed him, molded him, raised him. And as I said earlier, we all looked up to him. It's just we're all in awe of who he became. And again, for this to have happened to him, we're like, excuse me, but we're plenty pissed off.
And we're pissed with you. It's a whole nation of people that are from many nations. It's nations that are supporting you, and we're gonna continue to be there and ramp this up. You know what I mean? So it's like, now I just want to keep your place. I just want to go back a little bit because you talked about it takes a village, and I want to kind of show people how y'all from Newark. I'm from Red Bank, right? Very, different neighborhoods, different parts of Jersey, not too far apart. You know what I mean? About 40 minutes or so apart. You know what I mean? But Jersey is Jersey. So I want to show y'all that one of my best friends and somebody who helped get me into activism on a street level is a good friend of mine, Hakeem Green. So, right, just speak a little bit. And this is Hakeem Green from Channel Live. All we do is Sparkmanism, BDP all day. That's my man. He's always doing work 24 hours a piece. You know what I mean? Activism in the streets. Like, give this man a key to the city. You know what I mean? So just talk about your experience with Hawk and how this village thing has always been a part of our communities.
Okay, I got you back. Okay, Hakeem Green. Those are great memories. So I used to go to East Orange High School. And at the time, I was like 16, 17 with the Ansari community. So I used to do all of this. It's so crazy, guy. I was the only one in the area doing that, wearing my face covered. And so he, Hassan, can't think his last name right now. Hassan and Rodney Jackson, they had they went to Montclair University, and they had an organization, or I guess it was an organization called Act Now, African Children of Tomorrow Now. And they used to come into EO High School once a week after school, and we all be in a huge circle of the students, and they just talked to us about activism and Blackness and pride, you know. It was so dope. And I'm gonna tell you also, you know, Veda.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Veda used to be with them, and he used to look so dope because that's when X Clan was out, and I was low key crushing on Brother Jay.
Yeah,
And
Grand Verbalizer.
Oh yes. So Brother Veda would come up in there. He was with the Zulu Nation, so he'd come up in there with all his big chunk wood beads on, and his staff, and his red, black, and green. It was just like, it was a wonderful, wonderful time. But that's how I met Brother Hakeem.
Okay. Yeah, and we definitely gonna plug Hakeem into the conversation at some point. So yeah, so continue on now. Just in terms of so a lot of what the village had to offer is what was instilled into Two Clouds.
Absolutely.
And what made him the man he is.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about just, you know, so you homeschooled him, so you know, intellectually you had your fingerprint on him, like, you know what I mean, in a way that many of us aren't privileged to have somebody caring about our minds the way our parents would, you know what I mean? So let's talk about what his life was, you know, before, and then talk about him going up the mountain and starting to learn more about his other side.
So with the homeschooling and stuff, so let's see.
Like, was he a good student? Was he your best student?
Right. It's funny because I remember the very first book he ever read. And I always kept him like 2 grades above what they say he was supposed to learn. So if he's like supposed to be first grade, I would see.
Just be a little patient.
Okay. So yeah, and also we had restaurants too. We were entrepreneurs.
Okay.
And so like my ex-husband and I, we worked for ourselves for many years. So he also had that. And I don't want to give the impression that it was like everything was easy peasy or anything. You know, we certainly had struggles. But yeah, I was able to give him certain things. And as a homeschooler, I still have my youngest daughter. She's 17. She's still at home. She schools. My thing has always been to teach them how to learn and how to think. If this is what you want to learn about, then, and it's much easier now because they have internet.
Yeah.
But you know, so he became a great researcher. And from the Islamic side, he mentions this in the video actually. From the Islamic side, you know, he spoke Arabic. He actually spoke about 14 languages conversationally. And so he spoke fluent Arabic. We were able to send him over to Egypt to the Fajr Institute to learn the language.
Wow.
And so the reason why he was so good at reading these deeds and documents and stuff is because that's literally how he grew up. So in, you know, Islamic tradition, a lot of the things that we study is from back in the day. So the Quran, the Ahadith and everything. So, you know, that all was a part of him. And so he talked about in one of his videos how the teachers in the masjid, they would make them write word from word. And my dad did this to him too. They didn't just read the book, they would make them write everything out. So like whole books, they're writing out. So that was a great deal of his training also, which of course helped him in his work.
Yeah, that's how we got our lessons. We were supposed to write them down.
Yeah.
And so our enlightener gave us our lessons and we had to write everything down. And then you know, but not rely on the book. We had to
Right.
memorize it, but we had to
Mhm.
write it down. Yeah.
And you had to internalize it. You had to analyze what it was.
Yeah.
You weren't allowed to just spit something out. Like,
Yeah.
why is it saying this? Why is this best for the people? Whatever the case is.
Yeah. That was our, like, you had to be able to say the degree word for word,
Mm-hmm.
and then we say how you see that,
Right.
see that. You know what I mean? Then you got to go into breaking it down. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, God, I can see that. Okay, God, please, please. You know what I mean? Or now, cipher, God. You know what I mean? You better go home. Yeah. Yeah, like, you better go home, God. Now, cipher. But, yeah, that's funny. So, yeah, I didn't know he spoke that many languages. That's amazing. That's incredible. I thought Kobe spoke a lot of languages. You know what I mean? All right, so we're gonna wait till she gets. Okay, you're back. All right.
Back in the 80s in Hooterville and in Wellsburg, boy, if you didn't know your lessons, they were going to step to you.
Yeah.
Big time.
Mm-hmm. It was like that all over out here. Like, you could be in a small town, but if the gods is out there, it don't matter. You better have your mouth sharp. Like, wherever you go, it ain't just your neighborhood.
Right, you represent it.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you out your hood, you better really be sharp, because now you repping your hood.
Yeah, exactly.
So so socially, like, growing up, young Two Clouds, what was he into? Was he a skateboarder? What was Two Clouds into? What you know, what type of thing?
He was a reader. Big surprise.
Mm-hmm.
He also, let's see, socially, he didn't really go out a whole lot until he hit about maybe like 14, 15. And then, like I said, we had to reel him back in, like you wildin', back it up. But he didn't really do much. I did want to say too, socially, from an activism point of view, when he was like 10, of course, I helped him, but he started his first organization when he was 10. And I'm actually going to revive that later on this year. And it was for boys. And so this will be like a rites of passage type thing for boys. But, and, you know, as he, in his teenage years and stuff, they will go down to Penn Station and feed the homeless and things of that nature, you know? But just like being out there, not until about 14 or 15. And then one of his friends, Ismail, his sister, Najla, she used to round them up and take them to poetry readings and stuff. You know, we would try to keep them out the streets, but give them a little something. So a lot of things that he did was still surrounded sort of in the Black Muslim community. So if he went skating, it would like be something that the Muslims put together. It would be not only for Muslims, but still have that influence so they can kind of, you know, keep each other accountable.
Absolutely. So this is a great example of someone growing up in a community, although it's a community that's, you know, we could say one that was ravaged by crime and gangs and things of that nature. Having a village within that community can protect your children from the downfalls of that community, right? Having a spiritual community, having a community that's connected to something outside of just the commerce of everyday living. So, like, not to just get hung up on it, but what part of Newark, so people who actually know Newark can get a better understanding of what part of Newark were y'all in at these times?
Okay, I'm here.
So yeah, just so people have a better understanding, what part of Newark were y'all living in? Oh,
so I grew up all over Newark, but primarily I'm from, well, when I was born on the south side. So Sherman Avenue, Pennsylvania Avenue. When I was growing up, and Johnson Avenue, which is further up. When I was growing up, you ain't had so many high yellow people like me running around, unless you were like Latino. So all the Hispanics were down by where my grandfather was, and they look more like me, of course. Then up the hill on Johnson, you have more of the darker tone family, but they were my family too. So around there, when I was a teenager, I lived in Hill Manor. If anybody from Newark, y'all know Hill Manor. That's West Kenny and such. But with two, let's see. He was born in St. Michael's Hospital in Newark, but his first years were in East Orange.
Mm.
And so when we finally moved back to Newark, we moved to the west side, which was really bad. And then before we moved up to Pennsylvania, we lived back on the south side on Milford behind Shabazz High School.
Yeah. So I just wanted to make it clear to people that Two Clouds grew up in the hood.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
Absolutely in the hood. I just need y'all to know that.
Right.
I mean? So whatever, like, you got to understand all the elements so y'all see who this man was and why he was able to do the things that he did. You know
yeah,
I mean?
when people got under his skin enough, he would tell them in a heartbeat, like, yo, I only been Two Clouds for a few years. I've been Muriyd my whole life. Like,
Yeah.
take it down.
Yeah, chill. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Keep it funky on him. Like, listen.
Right. Like, chill, you're not going to be doing me any kind of way.
Mm-hmm. And that's a part of the power. That's a part of our strength. Somebody said earlier, our resiliency. Absolutely.
Yeah. And, I mentioned my parents being martial artists, but that was all over him. In the Black Muslim community, that's a thing anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But so Two was proficient in several forms of martial arts. He competed some. He could box really well. Because again, those are the things we give our kids to keep them out the street, but also to prepare them for the work we're hoping they'll do.
Yes.
So when you saw the humble Two, it was because he chose to be humble.
Mm-hmm.
He ain't want all that other life.
Yeah, I got that sense from Two Clouds. I'm a good reader of spirits and energy. And when I met Two Clouds, it was definitely there was nothing about him that made me feel like he was any way uncomfortable with himself. Mm-hmm. Nothing. He was solid. I could feel it from the core of his spirit. You know what I'm saying? The way he looked at me. You know what I'm saying? Right. I could see these things in people when I interact with people, and I could tell he was somebody that was completely solid. I could see the natural structure that would form around him. You know what I mean? When we talk about leaders, a leader don't have to come in the room and say, I'm the leader.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
I always say that.
It happens, right? You got to watch kids, and you can see it in children, right? Just put some kids together. You'll see who the leader is.
Right.
He'll emerge. So I could see that quality in Two Clouds. And, you know what I mean? It was very obvious to me. And the more I got to observe him, the more. But now I'm really, this makes all the sense in the world. So I just was trying to keep it going while it froze. So let me all right.
I parked in front of a Starbucks because I'm far from home. I was thinking it would be better reception, but
yeah.
But yeah, that's why people took him as being like cocky. But I would tell them he's not cocky, he's confident. Mm-hmm. So he never felt lesser than anyone. He never felt lesser than a white person or a rich white person or the president of a college or, politicians or, he's speaking at the UN and, chatting it up with like kings from African nations and stuff. Or just kicking it on the street corner with somebody. Mm-hmm. It was really one and the same for him because like I taught him to not even get caught up in those old statuses because we are all people and we are all going to be in that ground one day. Mm-hmm. Nobody is better than anybody else. And so he just never felt like, oh, let me cower over here in the corner or something. And that's one of the things I'm very proud of with him. Yeah.
Okay, so okay, you back. Okay.
Oh, I didn't even know we went out. I thought you were still there.
Yeah. We went out for a second. You just talked about something that you were very proud of him about, you know. So so let's start to talk a little bit about you know what encouraged him to go up the mountain and start to learn, and what the dynamics were at the time where he was starting to begin that journey.
Up on the, with the Ramapo.
Yeah.
So I always well, his father wasn't really in his life, nor was his father's family too tough.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like sporadic here and there. So I always taught him, like, yeah, your people are Lenape, but I didn't know a whole lot about the Lenape people. I just gave him what I could, again, we're homeschoolers. So,
Mm-hmm.
and so I would always tell him, like your grandmother has a whole lineage, like contact her to get that. And so it took a long time. They, for whatever reason, they didn't want to give it up. And then, he would ask and then he just fall off for a year or two. And I'm like, urge him to go back. So eventually his grandma gave it to him. And two being two, he was like, I'm jumping on the train and I'm going up there. I'm going to find this place,
Mm-hmm.
And so he went there, found the tribal office, found out about the language classes. Again, he's great at learning languages. Even if you hear him speak it, I notice when I hear other Ramapo speak, and this isn't disrespectfully, but when I hear him, it flows like it's an actual language. Other people, it sounds more,
it's difficult, and like the guttural sounds and all that. It's
right.
To speak it, like if you can speak Arabic, you would be able to speak the language,
right?
From the sound wise. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He spoke Mohawk. He spoke a lot of languages. But so yeah, he went up there, and in him meeting the chief and chief talking to him, he took him down to the land where he was actually killed. But took him down to the land, was explaining to him, like, yeah, these white folks, because if you've been there before, all around the land it's like mansions, there's a polo club, it's like these folks with a lot of money and things. And he told them about it, told them they were trying to take the land from them, and said that nobody in the tribe would fight with him. And so two was like, oh well.
Yeah, so be a little patient. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up a video so everybody who's watching can have an understanding of the atmosphere and everything.
Yeah, by December, so that was in October, and by December it was like on and popping. He was in there, and there were other people, not the tribe, but other people who will come, because at the same time the Dakota, it was the
pipeline was going
Dapple
on
thing, yeah. And so it was just at the right moment,
Yeah.
And so he had a lot of trouble, like a lot of the Ramapo, he's a newcomer. They like, who this dude talking about he one of us,
Yeah.
So, they will tell him that he's starting trouble. He need to go back down there, because they were really scared of the white folks, to be quite honest. And this is why his grandmother didn't want him to go up there, because she said, I don't know if she was talking about the Ramapo or the white folks, but her dad fled from Awa and brought them out of there. And at the time it wasn't cool to be native, so they told people they were Italian. Then the grandmother, she married his grandfather, and they too went into Black nationalism. So he just got it from everywhere.
Yeah.
So that's how he got up there.
Yeah. So what I want to do real quick, I'm going to play a video.
Okay.
It's going to show all, what was going on. Like it's a video about the land itself, so people could be a little familiar, give you a chance to, take a break for a moment, and then we'll come back and we'll finish, continue on in this journey and get a little more into, the tough part.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. All right.
All right. So, yeah, we're going to watch a little bit of this other video. Hopefully the sound is better. I don't know what the situation is. It should be better now, though. But this is the actual area that we're talking about. And share a little of this with you.
My name is Brooklyn. My father, Jonathan Demi, aka JD, was a filmmaker, and in 2016 I accompanied him to Standing Rock to document the water protectors working and praying to defend life on Earth. It was the blessing of my life to take that journey with him. Upon returning home, JD heard about a water protection prayer camp in Mahwah, New Jersey, a little over 15 miles from our family's home in Nyack, New York. Shortly thereafter, I accompanied him to the Split Rock Sweetwater Prayer Camp of the Ramapo Lenape Nation, under the leadership of Chief Dwayne Perry. In classic JD fashion, in addition to chatting and making friends, he spent his day at Split Rock shooting video footage with the intention of creating another piece. Several months later, in the spring of 2017, JD experienced a rapid decline in health and passed away. This past March, I returned to Split Rock to pray, to begin healing from the devastating loss of my dad, and to attempt to pick up where he left off. Most New Yorkers don't know that in view of the Manhattan skyline and the Ramapo Mountains of northern New Jersey, there are indigenous people who continue to live where their ancestors have for millennia. When they put up a teepee in support of Standing Rock, tensions increased dramatically among the Ramapo Nation, the Township of Mahwah, and the Ramapo Hunt and Polo Club, a private homeowners association which the tribal land is connected to. The Township of Mahwah continues to fine the Ramapo Nation tens of thousands of dollars each week for the presence of illegal structures on tribal land. Each of these ceremonial tree trunk carvings constitutes an illegal structure. Associated fines currently exceed $1 million, and this is a financial burden which the tribe cannot bear. The Township of Mahwah even mandated that the Ramapo Lenape Nation deconstruct their sacred Inipi sweat lodge, a sapling and twine church frame used for healing and prayer. If they cannot pay their legal financial dues, the people will lose their land.
Two or more Ramapos do not have the right to gather and pray on our own property. It's illegal for us to pray on our own property.
This is another chapter in the same story of colonial land theft, which began here over 500 years ago. I am seeking to complete a short documentary about what is happening in Mahwah, New Jersey right now.
Mahwah needs to make Mahwah Ramapo again. And thank you. We'll continue our struggle for Native American rights. Aho.
Okay, and they Maui long.
All right, so I don't know what is going on with this sound here, but they are doing. It never happens like that. I don't know if the sound was what it sounded crazy, but I just wanted people to be able to see what the land looks like, where it's situated, and understand what the climate is in that particular place. It's, as you said, the surrounding communities are basically they've been oppressing the people up there. So it's created I'm not going to speak on it, but people are being pressed up there. People are being oppressed more or less, and they have been for a long time, and something the public needs to know about as well. So it's a lot of things happening, and your son is, he's at the center of a lot of things. So please continue with the story.
Yeah, just to touch on what you just said about them, pressing and oppressing people up there. it was really crazy too. Was going through a lot up there. As a lot of people know, they were straight shooting at him. They would so he tells a story in one of the videos. I actually have it on my TikTok if you don't have it. But one of the guys there, who I think he's the president of the polo club or something. So he told him Ganaguio is Harold Maltz. He was an Mohawk elder that was on the land with Sue for like 2 straight years. Told them that they could use the electricity to charge their phones.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were like, okay, they were using it. And then some days or whatever later, he calls the police on to Nganaguio because they was using electricity. And it was like cars of cops. It was real crazy back then. There were cars of cops. One of the cops had his hand on his gun like he was going like shoot too. And it was just crazy. But even the people, they were like, when they're walking their dog, a particular couple definitely, which I won't say their names, of course, but they would like walk their dog and they would take their dog over the fence onto the land and stuff. They would call them all kind of niggers and all this kind of stuff. So Creator, doing how Creator does, the man of the couple actually had a stroke and died. And they tried to blame it on Two.
Wow.
They said that he did some sort of like voodoo on him or something like that. It was just real crazy. Even Ganaguio ended up doing 4 years in jail for something that was trumped up. But and he's an elder. He's like 70, 71 now. But he just got out last year.
Yeah. I remember everybody was fighting for him. Yeah.
Right.
Yep,
it was really crazy.
Yep, elder brother. He's the Mohawk, right?
Yeah. He's Mohawk. He's a good friend of mine. He has my loyalty forever.
Yeah.
I always check on him. If he needs something, I got him. Because he was there for my son when no one else was. And he didn't have to be. So what were we talking about before that? I'm sorry.
Oh, we were just talking about him going up there and some of the challenges he was facing.
Right.
Just initially trying to break in. I talked to some people and they talked to me about how, at first he was received, but I think that's common coming into any community. People want to know who you are. You know what I mean? You're gonna have certain groups, certain people are gonna gravitate towards you, some aren't. Takes a while to break in. But what I was told is that finally, like when they actually did do his genealogy, they come to find out, like, oh no, he's he's as much
more Ramapo than anybody up there.
I didn't want to say that, but I didn't want to say that, but
that's what I heard.
I'm trying to be diplomatic here, but that's what I heard as well. From the
maybe I should have been more diplomatic too, but it was just funny.
yeah. So,
but yeah. I don't know.
Just lightly on like, how did he talk to you about how he was being received once he
you breaking up? What'd you say?
I said how did he describe how he was received when he first started going up there?
He wasn't really received well at all. Eventually, people took to him. There are many people who have. There's some people who have strong love for him, I would say, and I just changed it because in the past 6 months I've learned, stuff and see how people move. But there are definitely some people who really loved him and are really hurt by this. But I will say this. Whenever they got pissed off at him, the council, they were always trying to kick him off the tribe, like take him off the rolls and stuff like this. And in fact, when he was murdered, they were again in the process of trying to kick him off. And I would like, he would be so angry because, this is his lineage. And not just that, I used to be upset because I'm like, everything he's doing for them, you know what I mean? literally his life, and we know now just how much so, but his life was in jeopardy. And for them to get upset and say, oh, we're going to kick you off the rolls, or like girlfriends that he had, they get peed off. And I definitely want to touch on something later, please, if it's possible. But, you know, they would always come for his character. And because, in my opinion, we live in a climate where a woman doesn't really have to necessarily prove what she's saying. She just has to say it. And then people who have good intentions and want to, you know, be supportive of women, it's just like, oh, she said it, that's what it is.
Mhm.
And so, you know, a lot of women know this. And so they would attack him from the outside and start spreading lies on him. And people would just believe it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like the nature of the times we live in. That's the programming that people exist under now. So it's okay.
You know, so
All
they would say to him, like, I'm gonna go online and I'm gonna tell them this and I'm gonna tell them that, and you're not who you were, because they're mad, you know. And this is some of what he was dealing with from the Ramapo people themselves.
Okay. So, but well, all that comes, a lot of that, you know, like I feel, and I've seen this a lot, right? Just in different communities, you know, the chosen ones choose themselves, right? They're the ones that do the work, right? And that puts them in a different position, you know, people in a different light, you know what I mean? And then, you know, envy and things of that stuff can start to creep in, really. But you're only, like, it only happens because you're not doing the things that you could be doing to shine in that same light. You know what I'm saying? It's so, you know, I could see, like, I saw certain things at times that I could see, like, you know what I mean? Like, just his sheer, the greatness of his demonstrations are rubbing some people the wrong way, unfortunately. So just to go back a little bit, let's finish the Split Rock, you know, what his role was in that, you know, and what he accomplished through that demonstration at Split Rock.
Well, Split Rock,
well, I mean, at the prayer camp, pardon me, at the prayer camp, Sweetwater prayer camp.
Right. I know what you were talking about.
Yeah.
So they actually have that land solely because of Two Clouds. I said in another video I made before that it's not necessarily that, you know, he did something super spectacular. A lot of the information and the deeds and such were right there in the file cabinets at the tribal office. But as I said, that was kind of his thing. He liked to research. So he was able to find the deeds and, you know, different documents and stuff to not only get that land and secure it for the people, but also he got back dozens and dozens of acres of land for the Ramapo people. The Ramapo people actually didn't have anything, only that 14 acres, which is now Sweetwater Prayer Camp.
Sweetwater Prayer Camp, yeah.
But again, the Polo Club and them, they're about to snatch that up. But he's the one who secured it. He went, everything he took to court, he won everything. And so that's where he fits in with that particular land.
Okay, so yeah, I just wanted people to be clear with that Two Clouds did a lot. He did what a warrior is supposed to do for his nation, like, and you know, we all humans. It is what it is, but like his name, his legacy, like he needs to receive, his family needs to receive their justice, and we're here to talk about it so more people can be aware of it, you know, and it's just, it is what it is, you know what I mean? It's heartbreaking, but it is what it is, and it's something that must be done. So I applaud you with your strength. Thank you for sharing things with us. Please continue on. I just want you to know that we appreciate your strength.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna tell you, this is hard. It's hard. It's hard because my son is gone. We literally grew up together. He's my son, but he was 30 years old. And so, at a certain time, parents and children, there's still, that sort of reverence, but you become peers. And so Tu and I were peers. He wasn't just my son. I wasn't just his mother. And so this loss, it's
Take your time.
it's enormous. It's immense. And the anger that I have is immense. And there's no way I'm going to be on this earth and not fight for my son. If the roles were reversed, Tu would turn over every rock in this country to make sure whoever harmed me would pay. And I absolutely intend to do the same for him.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And we're here for you. We stand with the truth, and that's all that matters. So, as uncomfortable as it may be, like, it is what it is. We stand with the truth. We here for you. And
absolutely. So, do you want me to talk about what happened?
I want to make sure that people have a complete understanding of who he was. And do you feel like everybody has a good understanding of who he was? Mm-hmm. Like, a lot of people say negative things about people, you know what I mean? But that comes with the territory, comes with, expectations being put on you. It comes with, it comes with people loving you. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times the people that have the bad things to say about you are the same people that loved you at one point. Right. So, is there anything that you want to clear up in terms of what might have been attached to his name in any?
Absolutely.
Yeah, before we move on
Absolutely.
to, what happened in terms of, so yeah, please, the floor is yours. Absolutely. We're just going to sit here patiently.
As I mentioned a little bit ago, there have been people who have straight out lied, not just on my son, but also on me and my family. And I want to set the record straight because apparently those lies are still being circulated. And I wanted to say something from Jump Street, but Tu was adamant that no, we're just going to let the creator deal with this. And that's what he did. And finally, it seemed like, we were seeing, a 180 before he was murdered. But this is something I need to say this publicly for my son, for my family, for me, but more than anything, for my grandson. Because again, people are still circulating this lie. Let it be known, my son, Tu Clouds, never abandoned his son. Never. I nor my family never abandoned my grandson. We were forced to not be able to see my grandson. Forced. His mother, for whatever reasons, that's her, whatever. I'm only speaking from our side. We were forced to not be able to see him. Our calls are being blocked. Our texts were not being answered. And this went on for 2 years. 2 years. Until finally Tu put his foot down and was like, I'm going to just do whatever I got to do. I'm going to say whatever I got to do in order to see my son. And that's what he did. So, alhamdulillah, thanks to Creator, he was able to spend the last 9 months or so before he was murdered with his son, here and there. And I'm telling you, if you ever saw him with his son, it breaks my heart to even remember. Their bond was so beautiful. And he has an older son too. But this baby boy, and it enrages me that people, again, who have come to me as if they are friends of my son, as if they love my son, as if they're there for me, embracing me, telling me, you know, how they're so sorry, but then they go off his back end. You know what I mean? That's foul. And my son was better than me. And him being able to be quiet about it and say nothing. I'm not doing that. I'm speaking up because one day my grandson, because he's been taken away from us again.
It's gonna be patient, and our sister will be right back.
You know, you can't talking about two clouds this, two clouds that with him, knowing that his father is this, you know, this dude, and then think he's not going to go looking for him online and trying to find out who he is and trying to find out who his family is and where we are. And then to have people come and say, oh, he didn't want to be with you. Oh, I'm not doing that. So I'm going to just leave it there because I'm not here to offend anybody, but by the same token, I'm offended. My family is offended. We lost so much time, and we didn't even get to see my grandson until my son was murdered. We got to see him finally. But now, you know.
Wow, I'm so sorry.
And that's the truth.
We apologize. Our hearts go out to you.
Thank you. I'm sorry if I'm talking really loud. I don't have my
AirPod. No,
and
it's perfect. It's perfect. You're not talking loud. Please talk as loud as you need. Express yourself however you need. We're here for you. If you need to take a break, a moment.
I'm okay.
That's understandable too. Yeah, and I know. I mean, I'm not gonna go too in depth about the last time I saw Two Clouds, but I saw everything. I saw the respect. I saw the admiration. I saw the validation. I saw so much, you know, like the last time I was with him. I saw the leader in him. I saw the compassionate person in him. You know what I mean? But I saw the strength. That was the biggest thing I saw. You know what I'm saying? And that's the memory that's gonna last with me, you know, as I move forward in this journey. So
yeah,
just now want to talk about, you know, the actual, you know, his murder.
What happened?
Yeah, just what happened, and you know, I know it's hard. It's, you know, we're gonna try it lightly, but just share with us whatever it is you feel you need to share with the world.
Okay. So let me start by saying to everybody, I can't say but so much as y'all can understand, I'm sure. Because although the Mawa Police Department has done zero investigation, I'm still trying to get something going. So, you know, I can't put so much out there. But I will say some. So, and I'll try not to take too long.
Take all the time you need. Okay. You're back.
He was found. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying you're back. So we're
okay. So he was found Wednesday, July 6th. He was killed Sunday, July 3rd. So that's 4 days. I spoke to him twice, like not even 24 hours. We know when he was killed because, you know, digital timeline. So the last time anybody had contact with him was around 11:30 in the morning. He was only in town because he was waiting to pick up his son to take him to a birthday party. So by like 2:30 or so, his phone was out of whack. Like we couldn't get to him. So I wasn't told at that point that anything was odd. You know, nobody contacted me to say like, hey, he didn't show up for his son. Have you heard from him or anything like that? So Sunday, I didn't speak to him. Monday, I'm like, oh, I ain't speak to Reed, So I called him and I got that crazy message. And that was odd to me because I knew he had just paid his phone bill. And so I called him, I think Tuesday, and it was the same thing. So I posted on his Facebook page, like, call your mother. Then by the next day is when my daughter got a text saying like, hey, we can't find two. Well, his son's mom texted my daughter and said, have you heard from Muriyd, because we can't find him. He was supposed to he was supposed to come. I'm trying to figure out which text came first. That he was supposed to come and pick up his son. And immediately for me, I'm like, something's wrong. He wouldn't do that. There's no way he would do that. And so I started freaking out. And, my daughter was like, relax. It don't mean it's him. Then the next call says that somebody was pulled out the river dead. And I immediately knew. So I just jumped in the car and started heading to Jersey. So I know who murdered him. I know this because, thank the creator, he don't know how to stop talking. So when I called him, let's see, I don't really know how to say this. First of all, I'm not going to say his name. So anybody who don't know anything won't know who he is. And that's not for his benefit, let me just say. Okay, you got me back. 3 people that would be in his circle all the time. One of them, when I called him to see what the heck happened with my son, he immediately started asking me, what did he look like? What did they say what he looked like? And that to me was odd. Like, why would you ask that? Like, I'm telling you, your friend is dead, So that was one thing that kind of put him on my radar. Let me say, immediately when I found out that he was dead and that he was in the water, immediately I knew he was murdered. Immediately. But I'm the mother, so everybody thinking I'm tripping, right? So, and I knew it had to be somebody who was close to him. Because again, 2 Clouds, he's a fighter. He's a martial artist. He's a boxer. He's thorough, as we used to say. Nobody was just going to come and run up on him. He knew the land. He was a hunter. He tracks. You weren't going to just run up on him. So in my mind, it had to be somebody who could get close to him. So when I called dude, again, that's what he's asking me. What he look like? What he look like? Then he kept going on and on and on about a pillow that he brought to him the night before or some old stuff, which again, I'm like, why is this 40-year-old man keep talking about a pillow, Then he told me that he told me himself that he had 2 location on and that he always had it on so that he could see where he was in case there's any trouble, but that he couldn't find him on location for 4 days. So again, I'm distraught, but I'm taking all of this in, you know what I mean? So I'm telling him from jump, somebody murdered my son. And I'm thinking this is the only couple of dudes that I know be with him, but I'm trying to tell myself, chill out. Don't start accusing people of anything, But stuff he's saying, I'm just like, this not making sense. Then when I was telling him, I'm like living, I'm like, somebody murdered my son. I'm like crazy with it. And he's like, no, No, he did. He died from a heart attack. He died from a heart attack. Please, please tell me he died. You know, like he's talking to God. Please, please, God, please tell me it was a heart attack. It had to be. And I'm like, my son ain't have a heart problem, you know. He's like, no, 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 it had to be a heart attack because if somebody did this to him, I'm from North. I'm catching all this, you know. So all that's going on. So that's Wednesday and Thursday. I'm talking to him back and forth. Friday we have the janaza, we have the funeral. He's at the I didn't realize, and I can't say, but this is what I was told, that he was okay. So that he had cuts and stuff on his hands and arms. So I'm not noticing this, but other Ramapo came to me like here and there after, you know, days and weeks later, and they're like, you know, they were spotting this and they're thinking, yo, what's up? Like, why is he? So they other people already thinking him without saying anything to me. So he comes up to me at the funeral and he hugs me and he gets right up in my ear like he's Scarface talking to something, like he a gangster or something. And he's like, yeah, you know, it's gonna be all right, and all this kind of stuff. So we leave the masjid, everybody goes down to the cemetery. We put 2 in. I'm distraught, of course. My other son, he said he just needed a break. So he started walking past the cars or whatever. And somebody gets out the car. He asked him, like, is this, you know, like, you know, our Muriyd's funeral? He said, yeah. He said the guy gets out the car and introduces himself as the new war chief. Not like his name, not his name. I'm the new war chief, none of that. As you know, they had just voted my son in as the war chief, like what, maybe 3 weeks or so before. So this is all the stuff that's putting him on our radar. It's not just me being cuckoo. So then like all this other stuff started happening when we all went up to the land for ceremony and stuff with him cussing out one of the elders. The elder told me himself, he said, the dude called him to the side and was like, you know, can I talk to you? And you know, he came over, was like, yeah, what's up? He told him that I just want you to know I'm in charge now. And he said, he asked him like, what are you talking about? And he said, yeah, 2 ain't here no more, so I'm second in charge. I'm the new war chief. And so the elder said, he told him like, that ain't how it works. Like, you got to be voted in by the people. And also, like, you got to be a member. Like, do you even have a tribal card? And so he just started blasting him, cussing out this elder in front of people. We weren't up there. Me and my people, they were up there. I assure you that wouldn't have happened. And it never would have happened if 2 was there. So all that stuff is going on. Everybody come down to the ceremony. The elder is shook. He's talking to me, telling me about it. Then he apparently is telling everybody who will listen that he's the new war chief. Now this is crazy because we literally just buried my son. And on top of that, it wasn't true. But we didn't know at the time. We ready to like tear, excuse me. Because it's like, excuse me, I'm getting hyped. So all that stuff was going on. And again, people are watching him. It's not just me. People are watching him. People are coming up to me. People are inboxing me. People on the phone are telling me, like, I don't know if the guy did it, but it's something about this guy. So that's him. Then there's another person who was also with them, a girl. When she got a text from someone, I don't know if I shouldn't say his name, I suppose.
Yeah, let's not
but
say
I'll
no
tell
names.
you privately.
Yeah, yeah, let's not say no names. That's
No, yeah. I wouldn't say his name. I did come anyway, but he texted her when he got the word, like right away, that two was pulled out the river, and her response was, "Is there a police report?" So we're like, she's another one who also was causing trouble up there the day of the funeral, the day of the ceremony. And let me say too, the first guy I mentioned, the day of the funeral, on his Instagram, I can't say it word from word, I have to pick it up. But on his Instagram page, he said something to the effect of like, basically like, sometimes you got to do what you got to do to get to where you want to be, type of thing. And then she, the same day of the funeral, on her Facebook page, her post said, "Kill your leaders, kill your idols. They all have blood on your hands." And so it's just like, what the hell? What is going on? And then, the third person, I don't know. I think he's innocent in a way of, I don't know if he did anything, but he certainly knows something. One of the reasons I say that is because he told me himself that he went to the land. He got word from first dude saying, "I can't find two." Like days later, go and look for him. So that he went to the land, didn't see two, but he saw the car there. He saw the boat in the water flipped over, but didn't think to tell anybody. Like, I don't understand this. Like, people do doofy stuff. Maybe it's just something dumb that he did. But I mean, we saw him at the funeral too, and he didn't look like he was grieving, to me and other people within the tribe who also said something to me. It didn't look like grief. It looked like something else. So I think he knows something, but I can't say. That's just bad. Yeah, so what I do know is that my son was murdered in a coup. Absolutely. Things that are happening up there right now, which I will not speak about here, but things that are happening. I've written a letter for the Ramapo, and I've given them a letter, and just like an open letter, but just for them. Things that are going on within the tribe, my son absolutely would not have been for. And I think he would have been the only one who would have fought against things. I know for certain this didn't happen from one person. That guy can't take my son, no way, no how. But also he was either transferred over to the water. He wasn't in the water like people were saying at first. They were saying all these rumors were being spread. He was like this, he was like that. He was under the bridge. The canoe was over him. None of that was true. He was on the shoreline. From what I understand, by somebody who said he was there when they came to get him. He was on the shoreline. He was slumped into the water. He didn't have on shoes. If you know the land, first of all, that shoreline is not very it's like narrow. There's like branches and stuff all over there. He had on no shoes. He had on socks, no shoes. He's not gonna do that. He's not gonna walk around it with no shoes on, period. His jewelry was gone. He always wore his turtle necklace. His hunting knife was gone. He always wore that. His jewelry is gone. And he drowned. So there's no way one person got him over there. Either he was incapacitated and taken over there and laid in the water like that, or they somehow again got him over there and held him under. But absolutely, he was murdered.
We're so sorry. Completely sorry for your loss, your family's loss. To hear the story is heartbreaking. Obviously, people have heard fragments, people have speculated, absolutely. I'm sure people in the know. This is not the first time they would have heard these. Is this the first time you've said some of these things, or you've been public with this before, right? Okay, she's froze. Just be patient. Okay, so I'm just once again sorry for your loss. I trust your spirit. It's nothing about you that I trust, everything that you have to say about your son and his life and his, how his life came to an end. You have spoken about this before on different platforms. Like, this is not the first time this information is being released to the public. Might be one of your first interviews, but it's not the first time you've expressed this information.
No.
Am I right?
You're right.
Okay. I'm just, so is there anything else? Like, I don't want to move on from this. I want to make sure that you say everything that you feel you need to say in terms of speaking about your son's murder before we start talking about what his legacy is going to be.
Okay.
So if there's anything else you'd like to.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a handful of tribal members who, reach out, they share videos and things like that, which is awesome. I love it. They're doing that and they're being supportive. But so far as the government, well, I will say the 7th, the chief or either his right hand man sent something over to the medical examiner asking them to do a forensics case. That was the day after we found out about too. But other than that, the chief has done zero to try to get justice for him. The council has done zero to try to get justice for him. I'm very upset about that. But I'm upset about it, but by the same token, I know how they treated him when he was here. People have this idea that he was getting all this kind of love from them, and he just simply was not. He wasn't. And I'm not going to go into like why and all that kind of thing, but there's been nothing. I will say that one of Tu's Ramapo friends invite me council. It was his idea. It wasn't from the council. It was from him. He asked me if I would be willing, and I said yes. And then he was going to ask the council. So I'm not really sure what if they said yes or no or whatever. And I planned on going, if only for the fact that I didn't want them to be like, oh, we tried. But after I thought about it, and we're really intuitive. So something just told me like, no, don't go. And after I thought about it, I said, it's been 6 months. If they were going to do something, there's nothing that I can say that's going to make them be like, oh, you know what? Maybe we should, So that to me is crazy. Because again, so far as I know, everything that they have so far as land and such, and I would venture to say even the amount of empathy that they're getting from outsiders is because of Two Clouds. That's the truth. You know, with him going to speak at different places, he was always going somewhere, speaking, telling the Ramapo history, telling the plight of the Ramapo people. As I said earlier, going into the court system, fighting, you know, putting his life on the line for them. And it's just crazy to me that people are not trying to help. And you know, not for nothing, I listened to a video that the chief did, I guess about a month ago. And somebody sent it to me today and I listened to it. And he was saying stuff like, you know, the Ramapo people need a renaissance. The Ramapo people need the children to stand up and you know, fight for the people, and you know, all this kind of thing. We need political strength. We need this. We need that. And I'm like, that was Two Clouds. You've heard my son speak. You've been around him. And I ain't too, and you know, I'm not like, oh, my son, my son. I'm saying, as a person who knew him, who admired him, who listened to him, none of them can articulate the way he can. None of them can sit in the circles that he could. None of them can, none of this. So you would think for someone who did so much for you that you would do something to try to get justice for him, you know? But there's no.
Well, we're gonna get justice for Two Clouds.
You know, I did not expect the Mawa Police Department, because Two was so outspoken on racist tactics that they have forced upon the Ramapo people and such. You know, he bite his tongue. So I did not really expect Mawa PD to do anything, but I didn't expect them to not even pretend. They literally, there was no report. There is no notes. There's no nothing. Not from them, not from state troopers, not from Bergen prosecutor office, don't want to do nothing. I've reached out to news media, independent and secular. Nobody want to touch this. It's crazy. Like, we know these things exist, but when you actually have to sort of maneuver in it in real time, it's crazy.
Wow. Whole lot to digest. And it's such a, like, I don't even really know too much to say. Yeah. So I don't know how to transition, actually, to be honest with you.
That's okay. Just go.
So let's end this on a positive note on what's going to be, you know, where you're going to go and where you're going to lead all us in terms of Two Clouds visions and how we can support you. Let's talk about Beyond Clouds. Let's talk about the other movements that you want to implore, and let's talk about how Two Clouds can live on, you know, just like the other great prophets and people have come to the people before. You know, we don't have to deify him, but we need to remember him. So let's talk about that.
Well, you know, I started Beyond Clouds, and that's sort of the umbrella organization, because I live in Pennsylvania, so things are like done a little bit differently there. So rather than just being able to sort of trademark names, I got to kind of do organizations. So I have Beyond Clouds, and I have Women Are Medicine Health Initiative. And so with Beyond Clouds, we've already started doing some things. Like we've had a clothes drive for the okay, back.
Yeah.
We've done things for elders, like buying food, medicine and things like that. We have another elder that we help out monthly, like phone bills and stuff like that. We've had a family day where we went pumpkin picking. We've done some other stuff I can't really remember right now, but it's
Okay.
still, it's new. It's only been around for 6 months, and it's really me doing everything, so it's a little difficult. We'll soon be having a free assessment, a free health assessment for women coming up soon. We are looking into partnering with Ramapo College, which is where he was a student, but also he did a lot there in terms of education. And they were actually about to make him a like co-professor. And our plan out, because I'm back in school too. So our plan was to like become professors together, and I was setting him up at PSU to come in there and talk to the people. So we are working to do some things for the youth, partnering with Ramapo College, hopefully. But one of the things that I'm really excited about is Stand with Two Clouds Week. So Stand with Two Clouds Week is will be the last week of May into the first week of June, depending on how it is every year. This year will be from May 28th to June 3rd. And the 2 weeks before that, I'm actually putting together a presentation now to go into the classrooms and into libraries to teach the youth about who Two Clouds was, what he stood for, and what his mission and purpose was here, to sort of introduce them to volunteerism and activism, so that they'll know that you can do things at whatever age you are. And so the week of, I have to, that first day, I can't say what it is yet. It's going to be real big, and I'm actually going to ask you if you want to work with me on that.
Absolutely.
But
I said absolutely.
okay. So that whole week, we're going to set up opportunities for the community and for youth to, again, do some volunteerism. One of the things that within the presentation we're going to brainstorm different ways that they themselves can food. Oop, I think I lost.
No, you back. Okay.
Okay. So if they want to do, a canned food drive, or if they want to do a clothes drive, whatever the case is, just to let youth know you do have a voice. A lot of times I think we make things super big in our minds, and it ain't really that deep. We can make a change. So throughout the week, we'll be doing things of that. And let me just say, Stand with Two Clouds Week will not be focused on Two Clouds. It will be focused on serving the people. But because this is what he was about, and has always been about throughout his life. And then the last day, that Saturday, we're going to have a dope 90s style poetry reading. The village, we're going to come out and do our thing. We're going to have open mic. And then after that, we're going to have some house music, because I'm a house head. I'm from Newark. And so, just to kind of commune with the people.
Okay. So that's amazing. And what we're going to do is we're going to connect you with the 24 Hours of Peace movement, which is a
Cool.
grassroots movement out of Newark. Hakeem, he's one of the creators of it, but the mayor's office sponsors it. So we're actually working on a documentary right now, 24 Hours of Peace documentary. So a couple of months ago, Hawk hit me like, I need you to go do some interviews at the mayor's office. So obviously, I went there. So when I'm sitting in the office with Midi Baraka, that's the mayor's brother, right? After we finished the interview with him, I tell him, I have to talk to you about a friend of mine who recently lost his life. And I told him about Two Clouds, about your son, about everything he did, about him coming from Newark, and him being somebody Newark should know about. So he immediately said, set up the meeting, so we just got to go through the proper channels, set up the meeting. We're going to go sit down with the mayor's office and talk about how you can help Newark and how Newark can help you.
Absolutely.
With these programs,
nice. Oh, so, wow.
Yeah. And I was going to cue the tape. I was going to cue the video up, just play it to get the stun on everybody. Like, I'm not making it up, but I'll send you the video of me talking to Midi. I just, I don't want to do too many things at once just to try and, I should have had it prepared earlier. But just to let you know, this, I'm 100% with you. We'll work on that, and we'll put the pieces together. We're going to help you make sure, Two Clouds' name beyond clouds lives beyond the clouds. So definitely thank you for everything. The floor is still yours. Anything else you'd like to say? Any more messages?
Thank you. Thank you so much. I was trying not to cry over here.
It's all right.
But I'm just so overwhelmed. I can't believe my baby is gone.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you so much. My Lord knows how much longer I have here on this earth. And my mission is to make sure his murder is not in vain. It has to be for a bigger cause. It has to be. And thank you so much, just for everything. For this, for talking to the brother. Thank you so much.
We want to thank you for allowing us to be a part of this. I wanted to be more vocal for a long time, but it wasn't. I needed to hear from you. I needed to have a relationship with the family before I felt comfortable, speaking on things. So yeah, we wish we could hug you. Raven says she wishes she could hug you right now. It's Ramapo here that want to show you love. Because it's not. We don't want people to think that it's the Ramapo. It's individuals, as it is in any community. You know what I mean? It's individuals.
Oh no. I meant to make that clear. No, it's not the Ramapo people.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, no.
It's just
individuals.
Right.
And we expect more out of the government. And we do expect more out of the government.
Right. Yeah, I don't want it to seem that way, because it's not the Ramapo people. Yeah. And many of them have expressed concern about the same person, but it's not them. It's not the people in the whole.
Yes, it's
and I intend, if they allow me to, I intend to work with them again as much as they will allow.
Absolutely. Yeah, because we talk about accountability, right? So people have to understand that. Now, this is something I just want to add to things for people to understand, that when we talk about the crabs in the barrel thing, it's one thing to have crabs in the barrel. It's another thing for them to be shaking the barrel up while we in the barrel. You know what I mean? Right. And a lot of times the stuff that we go through is not only because we're crabs in the barrel, but it's because every now and then they come shake it up, you know. So
Right.
Mawa plays a part in this. Fear plays a part in it. Like there's people that are scared, you know. It's just so many things to it for anybody to really, you know. That's why we just have to hear the stories out, and we have to start with this sister here. This is where our heart begins. You know, this is where our feelings. This is where our ground. This is where we're grounded in this conversation. In this, you know, in this time, we're grounded with you. You know what I mean? But we still have to be empathetic for other people who are victims of other things that have all contributed to this. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we stand with you, but we are still aware of the pain. You know what I mean? There's other people who are attached to this that are going through their own, like, you know, the creator going to handle.
Absolutely.
He gonna handle it. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, yeah.
we being aware of that.
Absolutely.
And but first and
Absolutely. And
foremost,
you know,
go ahead, please.
yeah, you know, this is a conversation we having. So I can't, everything is not coming to me at the moment, but I've made many videos. And so I've touched on certain things. And, you know, I don't expect everybody to be a two clouds. You know what I'm saying? We all have our place, but I do want people to do something. You know what I mean? And again, I want to stress again, if I in any way, if anybody took away from this that I'm talking about a whole tribe of thousands of people, I'm not. I'm talking about those particular people. So when I say the Ramapo, just like when I talk about, you know, people up on Akwesasne or whatever, I say the Mohawk. Or if I'm talking about Black people, I say Black people. I'm not talking about everybody. I'm talking about those particular people. So I do want to make that clear.
Yeah, and I think the people on here are, you know, their comprehension, they're smart enough, but it's also people who are going to be looking for any low-hanging fruit to try to create
Oh
more
yeah.
issues, you know. And a lot of times that could be it's not the majority, but it's the loudest people, you know what I mean, to make
Right.
the most noise, the smallest amount to make the most noise and try to redirect a narrative. So we're here today to learn more. We were here today to learn about yourself, to learn about Two Clouds, you know, to learn about his contributions, you know, to learn the tough
Mm-hmm.
things about how he, you know, lost his physical existence, because he's still here. She's still in life with us.
Right.
You know, and we're learning about what's going to come of this, you know, the different the organizations, the movements, how you're gonna continue to grow. What do you want people to take? What lessons do you want people to take from the time he was physically here? And what lessons do you want them to learn from the time that his spirit is now going to be with us all? And, you know, what part of that do you want people to incorporate into their lives? It's just, you know, just end on that note.
I want people to
Yes, you're just going to be
that to
patient.
anything. Yeah, two clouds was I'm sorry I lost you. Two clouds
Yeah.
is just the person. I want people to understand this, because I think a lot of times we, I don't know, put people on pedestals or something and feel like, oh, that's what they did. They were great. I'm not great. He didn't do anything that any one of us, we can do the same thing. So if you think it's like cool that he spoke lots of languages, start learning a language. If you think it's cool that he, you know, whatever, he was a historian, or he knew this or he knew that, it was nothing that you can't do. And remember, he just turned 30. He was mad young. So anything he did, you can do. And so far as his spirit, I really want people to be inspired by him. Be inspired by him. That would help him immensely. From an Islamic perspective, well, I guess I should say, from an Islamic perspective, a couple of things. First of all, like I said, he drowned. He also fought for land. He fought for the people. in Islamic tradition, those are some of the things that make somebody have died a martyr. There are lots of things, but those are some of the things. And also, it said that good deeds, good things that we do here on earth, stay here on earth after we pass away. That's it, except for a few. So one thing is charity that we've given that keeps on, given to people that benefits you in the spirit world. So especially water. So we actually still have a water well campaign going on if anybody's interested. Um, to supply a water well in Mali, which again is ancestral land. But so that's something that keeps on giving. Um, a child, righteous child who prays for you is something, their prayer, reaches creator or whatever. But also knowledge. So any knowledge that, which is a huge reason why I put out videos of his lectures and stuff. And so it can keep teaching the people, and why I'm putting out a book of his essays. And there's something he wrote about traditional Lenape spirituality that I'm putting out and things of that nature. So likewise, if there's something about what he did that inspires, that will also help him.
Okay. Wow. So just wait till you come back. Yeah, we're gonna get to that as soon as she comes back. As soon as everything. Okay. Refreshing. So yeah, that's why we wait for our sister to come back. I just want to thank everybody for joining us. Sisters, she'll tap right back in. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Okay. Okay.
I don't know what happened.
Yeah, no, that's all right. We're blessed to have had to be able to spend the time that we were with you. Just so
Thank you.
you definitely got a ride ahead of you. I want to let you get ready to get on that, take your journey. But where can everybody follow you? Can you just give your all your organizational tags, where they can follow you, how they can continue this conversation with you directly, and yeah, just let people know that a little bit.
Okay, thank you. So the website is beyond-clouds.org. The Facebook page is Beyond Clouds. You can find us on TikTok, beyond _ clouds, the number 7 _3.
Okay. And
and we're on YouTube, Beyond Clouds.
okay, YouTube. All right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make sure you get this video so you can put this on your YouTube.
Okay, thank you.
We'll be tagging, and I'll tag you in all the videos that we do. Do what we can to drive traffic to your site.
Thank you.
I also have a few other people who would like to interview you. So we have a brother on the West Coast. My brother, he's gonna he definitely wants to sit down with you. We'll interview him. I mean, I'll have you talk with him so y'all can work some things out, have a conversation so you can be comfortable, and then you can share with him. He's located on the West Coast, so we want to get your story out there a little bit. And
thank you.
Anytime you're ready to bring something, whenever you want to drop some items, something you're ready to put out, please reach out and we'll help you promote it. Commercials, whatever you need, TGE, Turtle Gang Edutainment is here for you. Our platform is here for you. And
thank you so much. Yeah, I'd like to do a documentary on him.
Yeah, that's definitely coming. And I want to give a shout out to our brother Brooklyn Demi.
Definitely.
The videos we showed today are his videos. I edited one of them. I might have edited both of them. I don't know. I maybe I edited both of them. I don't know. I know I edited one of them. I can't remember if I edited the other one. But Brooklyn Demi, great brother. He's an ally of all Indian nations. He's an ally of the Ramapo, New Jersey Indians, great brother. His father was a great filmmaker. He was the man who made Silence of the Lambs. So just want to give a shout out to that
That's
brother.
nice.
And you know, it was his film that we showed. And I believe you're going to be doing something with him as well, right? Yeah. Are you talking to him?
We talked a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah, Brooklyn's definitely a good brother. Shout out to you, Brooklyn. And once again, thank you everybody for joining. I'm gonna fall back and give you the last words. And then like I said, thank you very much. And we're always going to be here for you. So I'm gonna step back and let you get the last words and you can close things out for us. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you. I'm gonna call you later on so we can finish chopping things up.
Okay, sounds awesome. And thank y'all so very, very much. I am not able to look in the chat right now because I'm just not that computer savvy, but I will look at them in a little while and we'll connect with y'all. Thank you so much. And everybody have a blessed night. This is my son, Muriyd Williams, also known as Two Clouds. He is an enrolled member of the Ramapo Lenape tribal nation in Mahwah, New Jersey. And a little over 4 months ago, on July 6th, his lifeless body was found on the ceremonial land of the Ramapo people, the very land that he himself secured for them nearly 6 years ago. His body was dumped on the shorelines of the Ramapo River as if he was just a bag of garbage. My son was a water protector, a land and human rights activist. He was a father, an educator, a scholar, a linguist, a traditionalist, a Muslim, an artist, a writer. And he gave the last years of his young 30 years to the Ramapo people. And I supported him. Yet, despite his status within the tribe, his valued tribe, virtually no one is doing anything about his murder. His murder, which was caused by one of their own. The tribal government is doing nothing. The tribal chiefs are doing nothing. The Mahwah City Police Department has done nothing. They haven't even done an investigation, although they called me about maybe a month and a half ago to say that the investigation was closed. But when I went to get a copy of the report, there was no report, nor were there any notes or anything showing that they had even looked into his death. When he was found, he had on no shoes. All his jewelry that he always wore was gone. His waist knife that he always kept because he was a hunter and again a traditionalist was gone. He was slumped over into the water. Medical examiners have confirmed that there's no evidence that he committed suicide, that it was an accident, nor that there was any health-related situation going on. I'm coming to you because I need help on the front lines. I need people to help me fight for justice for my son. I need you to call the FBI in Newark, New Jersey, and let them know what has happened to Muriyd Williams, Two Clouds. I also need you to contact me wherever you're seeing this if you're willing to fight.
the native youth, and the native youth of a mixed background. You know, I have darker skin, so I catch hit from both sides. You know, it's like, man, I can't win for losing sometimes. You know, but I sit with my elders and I hear the stories, you know, that they tell, and even prior to that, I have to thank my mother first and foremost because I was homeschooled until I was about 16. And my father's Ramapo, my mother's also native, you know, she's Mohawk and West Indian. So growing up and having my mother teach me, she put our traditions and our culture, that pride inside of me, you know. So I grew up knowing who I was and being proud of who I was, but I didn't have the ceremonies that I wanted. I didn't have the songs, or you know, I didn't know how to do something as small as beading. You know, that means a lot for a lot of Native youth because it gives you something to hold on to that is who you are. You know, there's a lot of people who don't know who they are, and we may not think it means so much, but the fact that I can say that, yeah, I'm an Ape, or, you know, oh, you know, someone's Irish or German or anything like that, you know who you are, you know your culture, you have that grounding, you know, like a mountain. You put your roots deep in the ground and no wind can ever move you, you know. Also, is proposed to go through one of our largest burial grounds here in Mahwah, New Jersey, in the mountain, on what's known as Stag Hill Road. Has about 1,000 known burial sites within this burial ground. It's big.
Yeah, one of my, well, my grandfather, he's buried up on the hill. In that cemetery is one of the people on the burial ground there. And it's 2 hours to tell me. I suppose you can tell them about one of the homeowners here who set us up and led to an incident that could have been very violent. Part of the reason it appears to be, we found out that he's a petroleum consultant.
Yeah, on November 28th, 2016, at approximately 2:33 in the afternoon, one of the Mohawk elders who's been supporting us here from Akwesasne, up north of the border, he went out to charge up his phone and such using an outlet that is on our territory. This outlet and the electricity belongs to the quote-unquote polo club, where our plot of land is a part of. We were given permission to use these outlets by the president of the polo club about a month earlier, and we have been doing so since. And on the aforementioned date, the elder, my uncle, he was approached by an unmarked vehicle. Two individuals approached them from the vehicle, not identifying themselves as officers, and they wound up calling for backup. And by the end of it, there was approximately 14 squad cars out here, and they had my uncle, myself, and two other individuals from different tribes on our fence for about an hour. And one of the first responding detectives, he actually put his hand on his gun, on the firearm, and was acting as if he was going to draw it up. So we were afraid. We thought he was going to shoot us.
and also it's proposed.
Before first contact. Um, the Tuscaroras basically are northeastern Indians, and pretty much the dividing line between the northeast and southeastern Indians is the Cape Fear River. So the native nations south of the Cape Fear, the Catawbas, Yamasees, the Creeks, Cherokees, these Indians were southeastern Indians, while the Tuscaroras were northeastern Indians. And they were one of the most, or the most dominant group in eastern North Carolina prior to the arrival of Europeans and the spreading of diseases by the European, and then conflict between Europeans and native people in the region and in North Carolina. It's also important to note and understand that the Tuscaroras were Iroquois. There are many different nations of Indians, and I explained to people that the nations of Indians are like in Europe or in Africa, you have different language groups, different ethnic groups, the French, the English, the Dutch, the Scots. And so in North America with Native Americans, you have the same thing. You have language groups. And the Iroquois, the Tuscaroras and their kinsmen, the Nottaways and the Herons, were Iroquois, and they dominated Southeast Virginia and Eastern North Carolina. And then the Cherokees were in the mountains of Tennessee and North Carolina. And then there were other groups, of course, Algonquin-speaking people, Muskegon-speaking people, which were the Creeks, and then the Algonquins, which made up a number of different other groups in Eastern North Carolina. The Tuscaroras came into North Carolina historically from the Northeast, and before that, from the Ohio Valley. The Iroquois people lived in the Ohio Valley at the ancient city of Cahokia thousands of years ago, and then they migrated east into New York and Pennsylvania. And then from that region, the Tuscaroras migrate south into North Carolina. And once arriving in North Carolina, the Tuscaroras really split into three major groups. You have the Tuscarora proper, who are in North Carolina, Eastern North Carolina, and throughout North Carolina. You have the Maharans, who still reside in Hertford County and in northeastern North Carolina on the border with Virginia. And then in Virginia, you have the Nottaway Indians, who reside in southeastern Virginia in and around the Cortland area. For all intents and purposes, the Nottaways, the Maharans, and the Tuscaroras were the same people, linguistically, ethnically, and culturally. and they basically are in that region of North Carolina and Virginia. They come into North Carolina primarily through the river systems. They come down pretty much through the mountains from the Roanoke, from the Appalachian Valley, the Shenandoah region, and Roanoke River Valley, down along the Roanoke, and then populate the Nottoway rivers, the Meharon River, the Roanoke River, and then eventually they will also populate. They will also populate the. I apologize. Trying to make sure it advances. They will also populate populate the rest of eastern North Carolina. So you will see that they start in the Chowan River Valley region, Roanoke River Valley region, Meharon and Nottoway River, and then they migrate down to the Tar River, the Neuse River, and eventually as far south in North Carolina as the Cape Fear River. So all of the major west east flowing rivers from out of the Piedmont of Virginia and North Carolina down into the coastal areas are the rivers that the Tuscarora will basically settle along and migrate to and build villages all along those rivers in eastern North Carolina. The Cape Fear or Petey Yadkin rivers kind of separate the Yamasees and the Catawbas and the southeastern Indians from the Tuscarora, but pretty much the Piedmont of North Carolina and eastern North Carolina is dominated by the Tuscaroras, and their it's part of their hunting grounds. The Tuscarora will be made up of several clans, a total of 7 clans: Snipe Clan, Eel Clan, Bear Clan, Deer Clan, Wolf Clan, Beaver, and Turtle Clan. And they will basically thrive in eastern North Carolina until the time of the Tuscarora War. It is possible that there were other clans, but at the time of European contact and during recorded history, these are the 7 clans that were in existence during that time period. And again, as this colonial map from North Carolina shows, the Tuscaroras had villages stretching through what today would be Bertie County, Hertford and Halifax County, on down through Edgecombe County, Wilson County, on down towards Snow Hill, but throughout eastern North Carolina, most of the major places like Pitt County and major cities like Goldsboro, Greenville, New Bern, et cetera, would have been settlements and major towns for Tuscaroras, and that's would be their hunting areas throughout eastern North Carolina and up into the Piedmont. Because of the Tuscaroras, historic ties to the Iroquois people of the Northeast, they developed trading routes. They traded with various Indian nations in the Southeast, with the Cherokees, the Creeks, the Catawbas, as well as Indians as far north as their kinsmen, the 5 nations, the Mohawks, the Senecas, Onondagas, and Cayugas. But they had a very significant trade. Not only did they have very fertile land in eastern North Carolina that was desired by the colonists, they had very lucrative trade routes and were the middlemen between major trade between the colonies of Virginia, South Carolina, and even as far north, as I mentioned before, to New York and Pennsylvania. And because of this, they are as much a part of the Iroquois Confederacy as the other 5 nations. They were well respected by the other 5 nations. And after the Tuscarora War, they will be allowed to migrate to the lands of the 5 nations and become the 6th nation of the Iroquois Confederacy, the most powerful Indian confederacy in the history of North America. If we look at great native civilizations in North and South America, the Iroquois count as one of the greatest native civilizations, along with the Pueblos, the Aztecs, the Incas, and the various nations, very distinguished nations. There were hundreds of nations of Indians, and the Cherokees and Southeastern Indians were very significant as well. But when we look at great civilizations, the Iroquois count as one of the great civilizations in North America. And because of their relationship with the Tuscaroras in eastern North Carolina, and the Tuscaroras' access to the Outer Banks of North Carolina, and all natives' major trading good, which were seashells, particularly a purplish seashell that existed on the coast of North Carolina, we will see that they dominate the trade in wampum. And I'll take a second here just to mention wampum and seashells, these purple seashells for Native Americans were the equivalent of gold and silver to Europeans. And so they were very, very valuable to Native nations. And the Tuscaroras dominated that seashell trade throughout North Carolina, Virginia, and the Southeast. And of course, these shells make their way to their kinsmen, the Iroquois, in the Northeast. I'm going to try to be very brief because I want for us to understand the impact that European colonization and the impact with contact with Europeans had on Native peoples. We know about, if you study colonial history, you know about the Portuguese and the Spanish and the impact that they had on Native peoples in the Caribbean and in Central and South America. We know about the spreading of disease. We know the warfare that took place, and we understand the devastation that happened to those cultures in that region. But I think what is less known to people is that the Spanish were also in North Carolina, and they also had an impact on